Hey, welcome to the Redefining Real Estate podcast. My name is Michelle, and I'm here with Travis Royle today from Century 21. He is a local realtor. I've known him for quite a few years now. And we're going to talk about real estate investing and how to make money. And Travis is a pro at this. So this is going to be an educational session for me and for everybody that's here listening. So I'm super excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Cool. So, tell me about, well, I guess you got into did you own investment properties before you got into real estate? Yeah.
Yeah, I started real estate investing in 2007, and I was going down that path. And then I ended up selling buying and selling more than 2 properties a year. And I was in the military at the time, and I was just like, well, maybe I should just get my license, right? So,
save some money.
I did a whole bunch of tours and stuff like that. So I got back into what's called Garrison, and then I was a little bored in Garrison, and I was doing my real estate investing. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just go get these courses. So I started taking the courses, and I was like, wait a minute, I think this is what I should be doing, right? I fell absolutely in love with the thoughts of being able to help others and whatever. So I got my license, and I put a memo up the chain of command in the military to see if I could have a second job to do this, and I got a yes. So then I started selling real estate in the military for about 2 years before I even got out.
Yeah.
So I started real estate investing. I think I got licensed in 2014, I think it was, or 2015 or something like that.
Were we? Maybe we did get licensed at the same time. Maybe we did an exam together.
I can't remember, but I think so.
I think so too.
So then once I I was kind of doing both for a while, and then I ended up just falling in love with it, and then I just continued it, and here I am now.
Yeah, and you've got a big real estate team, and you've done so well.
Yeah, so we have the Royal Group in town is we have 8 agents and 2 admin. We might be growing to 9 agents and 2 admin, and actually to 3 admin. We might be getting another.
You can never have enough help. I don't think you can ever have enough help.
Yeah, I'm called the team leader, but in all honesty, it's my admin.
Yeah, right.
So it's just such a great group of people that are very client focused, and I couldn't be more lucky to have them, which is great. So we have the team, and then I actually took ownership of Century 21 in Belleville as well. So we have the brokerage as well with my business partner. So the original owner, Bill, he's owned a Century 21 probably 40 some odd years. He's been in the business 42 or 3 years for a long time. So he's trying to hand over the reins, I think, to Joelle and I, and we're starting with Belleville. So with Belleville, we're working through some things. There's going to be a new location that's coming that is under renovation. So that's been purchased, and there's a lot of moving parts around that, and which is a lot of fun. So that's kind of back into my wheelhouse of real estate investing. So I get to redo another building, and yeah.
So how do you go about the investing process? I remember when I saw you last, I was at Egski. I don't know how you say it. Eggsquiz, whatever. Remember?
Yeah. Egski Squiz. Yeah.
I just call it Egski. I don't actually.
Yeah, I call it Egski too, but I think it's Eggsquiz.
How to pronounce it. But you were talking about how you were actually helping your team members start purchasing investment properties. Maybe take me through that process of how you would coach somebody through that.
So coaching a real estate agent and coaching a client are 2 different things.
Yes, because your mindset is different. But.
Well, it's so depending on the agent, like yourself, you're probably a prec, right? A personal.
Yep, I am now. Yeah.
Right. So with being a personal real estate corporation, the only reason why you do that is so that you can not bring all the income into your house, so you can save the taxes, so that you can seed it over to a holdings company to go and invest in whatever, right? So with that, that's where I have those conversations with the agents. If they're able to do that and move some money over to invest, then we first get them set up on a prec So because if they have these extra funds to go and invest, well, if you're pulling it out of your income, we need to change the way you're set up so that you can save all these taxes.
Right.
Then from there we go, all right, well, what do you want to do? When I'm talking to somebody about figuring out what they're going to invest in, I'm more like, I'm not like, you need to do a duplex, you need to do a BRRRR, you need to
Right.
do whatever, a buy and hold or land banking or any of these other ways that you're commercial, whatever. Or about looking for the opportunity with the means that you have. Right. So it's just
Right.
when you look at the market, it's like trying to find something. Let's say you have a certain amount of purchasing power. How do you, like, what are you looking for? It's just whatever opportunity, right? So you're not in tunnel vision to be like, I need to find this only one thing.
Right.
It's finding,
Open to.
just something that is going to be good so that you're getting that ball rolling, right?
Right. Right. What is the BRRRR concept? I remember you
So
sort of telling me, but I forget.
yeah, so the BRRRR is the BRRRR technique, right? So back in the day when I first started investing, I was doing the BRRRR technique, except for it was just back then I think it was called like flipping to yourself, right? So really what you're doing is you're it stands for buy, renovate, refinance, rent, redo. Okay,
Okay.
so you're gonna buy a property. Okay, so let's say we're going to just take a duplex conversion, right? Because
Okay.
with the accessory dwelling units in it being allowed now, so this is like an opportunity. If you have a property or you see a property, like, hey, there's some opportunity here to add value.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so what it is you find the property, you create an up-down duplex kind of thing, except for it's a single family with an accessory dwelling unit, right?
Okay.
Duplex rules are different than ADU rules, accessory dwelling unit. So when you find that property, you go, okay, well, how are we going to convert the property? You're going to put, fire and sound separation. You're going to totally redo the electrical to have separate meters. You're going to have the heating sources separated, right? So, and then usually for me and anyone that I work with, I try to have them like, I like stone. I like higher end finishes and do higher end units. So the key is to get a high appraisal value at the end. So after you're done all of the renovations and you've created the second dwelling unit,
Right.
you then get it appraised, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's two ways to do it. You can either get it rented first so that you can show, so they can appraise it using the cost approach
Right.
over the direct comparison approach, right? For the appraiser. So then you can get a high appraisal value. Once you get that high appraisal value, you go back to the bank and you get a conventional mortgage. Let's say you use private financing or BCD lending
Right.
to do the project part, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't have as much red tape to jump through. If you use if you use a normal bank, you're now going to be like, all right, I got to get all these quotes, and now I got to do all these things and jump through all these. Sorry, my dog's going to yell at me in a minute. I think she wants in. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. I have 4, and I think I made my dad put them in the garage because I was like, yeah.
Mine's the size of 4.
Yeah.
Get out of my way. Get out of here. So yeah, she's a monster. Okay. And where did I leave off? I just said, for the appraisal.
Yeah.
So once we have the high appraisal value, I was talking about using private lending over
Conventional mortgage.
Right? So conventional is fine if you can do it that way, but you're going to jump through a lot of hoops. Yes, you'll pay lower interest rates because you're going to pay like 9, 10, 11% for private, but you do it for a certain period of time. You work the numbers in your calculation when you're doing the BRRRR. And then after you're done, it's just less red tape is a lot easier to work with.
Yeah.
So I usually, if I can't fund the renovation myself because I'm, doing too many projects at the same time, then, I will use private financing to do it. So after that's all done, you get you get a conventional mortgage at the end with a high appraisal value, and you can pull all of your money back out. That's the hope, is all of your money, right?
Right.
So cash on cash return, right? So you pull all your money out and you don't have any of the original money in. Your cash return is like infinite because you don't have any money in it, right? So I own multiple properties with 0 of my own dollars in, right? Because after I financed it, I got to pull it all out and then you can do it again. this is the fastest way to grow your portfolio when you're starting.
Right.
Right.
That sounds, yeah.
It's more hands-on, and there's obviously more risk to it and stuff like that. You need to be set up with a proper team of people and professionals to be able to take care of all these things.
Yeah.
And after you're done, so after I'm done the reno and I've done the refinance and I pulled all my money out, I start like, I've already bought the other thing, right? So like
You're already on to the next.
I usually have a few projects on the go. Like right now, I think I have like 4 or something on the go. I can go over all that.
Like you like to stay busy.
What else am I gonna do? Sleep?
Yeah, exactly. Other than sell houses,
right? Yeah,
and run your team.
So once that's done and you've refinanced and you pulled all your money out and you go, do it again, it's well, we pass things off to the property manager, right? Because we're teaching passive income. We're not trying to create another job, right?
Exactly.
So it's 100% passive. So if anybody comes to me and is like, hey, do you have one of your apartments, is one of your units available for rent? I'm just like, I have no idea. You have to talk to my property management company. So like, because I don't put people in my units. I've given that control to my property managers because I'm not a property manager, right? I can list a property up for rent, but I would still advise people to use a property manager to screen them over any real estate agent, unless that real estate agent is trained properly to screen people.
Right.
Because a lot of times the real estate agent's just like, oh, I have a client, I just want to put this person in anywhere, and there's no screening involved, right?
Yeah.
Like, here's their credit score and here's this.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's it. So yeah, that's kind of the BRRRR technique. I love the BRRRR technique if you're able to do it. And set up with like the construction crews and everything that you're going to need, because it is the fastest way to grow your portfolio.
I think that's the hardest part though right now, is finding the industry professionals that are reliable and, you know what I mean, like that actually do a good job and are reasonably priced. And I know that, the people who do a good job and do show up, they're obviously the highest priced ones, right? So
yeah, and I don't want to plug myself, so I'm not going to say some things. But what you need to do is you need to find the person that's going to help guide you through real estate investing. If you need a guide or a mentor, make sure that whoever you're working with has a bunch of contacts that maybe you can utilize. Because if you're just getting into it and you're going to go blind and be like this contractor or that, you are taking a risk, right? 100% taking a risk, and with no risk there is no gain, right? Take the risk or lose the chance. I have a bunch of them.
I like that one. I don't know if I've heard take the risk or lose the chance. I like that.
Yeah. So like then, so that like if you're working with someone that's going to help you through this real estate investment world, they should have a team of other contractors in behind them. Just like if you work with an agent, they're like, I need a lawyer, they're going to give you a lawyer.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Same thing. If you're going to, look for real estate investment stuff, right? Make sure that whoever you're working with and the team that you build, because it's all about the team that you build. Even if like let's say the agent doesn't have some connections, well, maybe someone else in your sphere that you're creating, property management, contractors, you're going to need real estate agents, real estate lawyers that know real estate investment stuff. And then you're going to need an accountant that knows real estate investment stuff to help make sure that you're making the right moves there.
Yeah.
But yeah, because yes, you're going to get me into being a motor mouth here.
That's okay. That's okay. We're here to educate people and myself. So the more I learn, the better.
Sure.
We do not own any investment properties yet. So it's something that I'm very interested in. But I just, I travel more than I probably should.
Yeah, me too. So then again, that comes right back to making it passive, right? So passive income is what we need to create. So clients that come to me like, oh, I'm going to manage it myself. I'm just like, well, that's where all the horror stories come from. So any horror story is most likely from that.
Yep.
People managing it themselves. Not to say that like you don't get a property management putting someone in your unit that isn't great and they wreck the place. That happens for sure.
Yep.
The process of getting those people out will be less delayed if you use a property management, because they use paralegals and stuff like that, where you're going to go in there and people pull on your heartstrings or whatever, and then you put yourself in a bad situation. So being able to like do real estate investing and then make it a passive income stream is the point, is the key.
Yeah.
Managed portfolios is the key to that.
And you kind of want to separate yourself, right? That's kind of what you're saying is you own the property, but you have nothing to do with the tenants. You really have that separation. So it's a transactional type.
Yeah,
business.
so I look at it as I'm a landowner, not a landlord.
Right.
Right? That's how I'm just the landowner. Like if someone comes to me like, oh, this person's making a lot of noise, I'm like, property manager, I don't know what to do for you, right? Like I don't have control over that, right? So so I'm just the landowner.
Now,
right?
do you get different property managers for different properties, or do you just use one big umbrella?
Depending where the property is, I do have, like more than one property manager. Like right now, I have a project on the go. I have a burr on the go in Peterborough, right?
Okay.
So that one in Peterborough, it'll be a property management closer to there because the ones that I have in this area, they're not going there, right?
That makes sense. Totally.
Yeah, so I'll use, and like let's say you're dabbling in commercial, right? Some property management companies, they don't do commercial,
right?
Let's say you're like, ooh, I'm really into Airbnbs, right?
Yep.
I'd love doing Airbnbs. Well, a lot of property managements do not do Airbnbs,
right?
Where other ones do, right? So you're just going to use the right, like again, that's across the board. Use the right professional to do the
job,
to do the right job.
Right. Yeah. Now, how do you know whether or not it makes sense to like hold the property and rent it or sell it? Do you just evaluate the value at that time and go, does it make sense for us to sell it right now? Or do you?
I haven't sold one of my properties ever.
You're just buying and holding, right?
Buy and hold, buy and hold, buy and hold, right? Except for my own properties, right? Like my own houses that we live in.
Yeah.
Other than that, no, I don't think I've sold any. I'm about to, and I'm gonna struggle with that because after once you do a lot of real estate mortgage, like of residential mortgages, you'll get to a cap, and it's like once you hit that cap, it's like, well, how do you make things work now, right? I'm gonna have to jump more into commercial, or I'm gonna sell some smaller single families to go and buy some larger ones, right?
Right.
I'm getting into like infill development stuff where I'll tear down, like have one in Trenton right now where I bought the place. It's a duplex. I'm severing the land, and then I'm going to tear down and build a sixplex and a triplex.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be probably 2024. I'll be able to actually put that plan into action.
Yeah.
That has to.
It's such a long process.
Well, yeah, like I'm still trying to get the land severed, right? So I think in February I'll be on the next council meeting and whatever.
Good.
And then with that one, the road was done in like within the last 5 years, and you can't cut the road before 5 years after it's been done. So I have to wait till 2024 to be able to cut the road in the first place, right? So I'm waiting till 2024 no matter what.
That's a new rule I've never heard before.
Yeah. So if they redo your road, you can't cut it for 5 years unless it's an emergency. So if you're just going to do, so it doesn't wreck, what they just did.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I might ask permission if I can get everything all done. Like I have to change zoning and all that stuff. So hopefully that will get done and I can be like, hey, can I please do it a little early?
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
What is your take on timing? Because obviously COVID, none of us could have predicted what was going to happen, obviously. And then with this downturn now, some people played it right. Some people did not. And I've got people calling me going like, okay, so like if we sold, can we at least make what we paid? And I'm like, no, not right now. There's a couple of those situations right now. So how do you...
So I bought through all of the pandemic. I purchased.
It's just making like smart real estate decisions, right? Like
absolutely. So obviously don't buy high and sell low.
Yeah.
Right. So you may not be able to sell it for a while, right? One of the things is, laundry's coming up.
Yeah, Dad's laundry.
Yeah. So one of the things that when you're analyzing, so if you're in a position, you're just like, well, if I sell it, I'm going to take a loss, and you have to sell it, well, then you have to take a loss. So
Yeah.
sorry, right? It's any type of investment risk happens, and if you're in a position that you have to sell, you have to sell. Maybe look at other things. Is there any other way that you can get around not selling it, right? Maybe
Right.
look at that. But at the end of the day, if you have no choice, you have no choice, and you might have to take a loss.
But that's where the realtor comes in, and they can help you, maximize your profits, right? And
Figure out
hopefully
options, right? Maybe don't sell it. Maybe you have to rent it out, right? Maybe it's
get
this,
creative.
right? So like to me, like if I sit with somebody, there's a lot of times I talk myself out of a lot of listings because it's like, well, you shouldn't sell it, right? Because that's actually the best decision for them. You shouldn't sell it. We should rent it out, or you should do this, or you should do that, or whatever. That's dependent on their situation. Everybody's situation is different.
Right.
So for myself, throughout the pandemic, while investing and stuff like that, I bought a bunch of different properties, and like I just closed one. I just bought one. I bought a triplex at the end of November, and it closed like December 28th.
Oh, nice.
So I just bought a triplex, and because of the interest rates, I got a good deal on it, right?
Right.
Because you're not going to buy a negatively gaining property. So I was able to negotiate the price to make it make sense.
Yeah.
Once the interest rates return, obviously we do not have a crystal ball. I'm just like listening to what all my mortgage brokers and economy news
Analysts or whatever they're called.
and I'm news that I'm hearing. So January to me, this is like, is it going to happen? Is it going to stay and not move?
Right.
Canada, are you not going to do something? So if they don't do anything, that's going to be an indicator to me that they're going to let it ride. So my thoughts are, and again, who am I? But my thoughts are that it's going to sit unchanged. It's going to we're going to ride out what it is right now. And I think in Q3, end of Q3 to Q4, it's going to maybe drop just like a little bitty bit. So I think it might slowly come back down. And I guess the thought is by 2027, it'll be like maybe pre-pandemic rates.
Okay.
Right? So if it even drops from right now, if it drops that little itty bitty bit,
right,
I did just a 1-year mortgage on that property I just bought. Right? And if the interest rates drop a bit and I'm able to get a better rate after the 1 year, right? I've now two things. One, I've increased the value of the property because it's going to be creating more cash flow because it's a cost approach. It's based on income, right?
Right.
And then in two, my cash flow is going to grow, so I'm going to make more money just in general because I'll lower the expenses in the property so that it'll make hopefully it'll make some more money. And just by sitting on this property, if I don't do anything with it, as the interest rates go down, that value, the price of the property is going to go up, right? Because it's going to make more money, right?
Yep.
So naturally, the appreciation is going to go up.
Yeah.
So that's hope, right? If it doesn't work, well, I guess I'm just going to hold this thing until it does, right? So
exactly.
So as long as you're not,
figure it out.
Why, like over the pandemic, my advice to people were like, well, I don't mind taking a little bit of a loss because look at the appreciation that's going on. I'm like, well, that can't last forever. So we need to find, it's hard right now, but we need to find an opportunity in the market and not just buy something and lose because who knows what's going to happen. Right. Now we're in the spot of, this is who knows what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to the mortgages, I like asking these questions because we almost remortgaged in March with a variable rate, but our current interest rate is 1.84. So I was like, I know we're never going to get this rate ever again. But I'm so glad that we didn't because variable rates are higher right now. Right.
Yeah. So I have like 4 variable rates, I think. 5.
Okay.
4. During all this, when it was this shit was changing. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, probably no swearing.
Oh, you can swear. I don't care.
Okay, cool. So as things are changing, I was unbelievably busy, and in my head, I'm like, I need to call my mortgage person. I need to lock some stuff in because I knew that things were going down, right?
Yeah.
And by the time I got to it, which was probably a month too late, and I just
Right.
like, hey, I need to sort this out. I've been meaning to call you. I need to lock in some of these rates, right? Because years past, I was like, no, I'm just doing variable. And then when I got to it, he's like, all right, well, here's the penalties and here's where we're at. I'm like, well, that's not good. So
Yeah.
I can't change them. It doesn't make financial sense for me to change them.
Right.
Because I'm already at the top, right? Like now
Yeah.
I'm already at the top of what it's going to be.
Right.
Luckily, I have a big enough portfolio and a big enough cash flow in my portfolio that I'm fine, right? At the end of the day, it's not great, but it is what it is, and I get to write off all the interest on these properties and stuff like that. So it is what it is at this point, and I can't change them because the interest rate differentials and not interest rate differential. Sorry, variables is always 3 months of interest to break them. So the 3 months of interest to break these mortgages and then change them. It's just the math didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So now I'm just going to ride it out until.
But if you were to if you were to buy something in the next, say, 3 months, you're probably going to go fixed.
Short-term fixed.
And so you do 1 year.
The one that I just bought, I did 1 year because the interest rate was just so much better.
Right.
And my prediction is that it will, by this time next year or by December of next year, I think the rate will go down compared to where it was.
Right.
That again, risk to gain, right? So I'm taking that risk. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it is what it is. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But the fact that you're willing to take the risks is why you've gained over the years, right? Yeah. So I think that's a big thing with a lot of people is that they're just afraid to get into the investment property. Number one, because they hear about all these horror stories, which are those people who are self-managing. And then the financial aspect of it. I mean, people are struggling enough to get into their first home and not being able to, get out of the rental tornado. I think it's just, I think the financial.
So that's actually a really, really good point that you're bringing up. That's one of my favorite conversations is first-time home buyers and when they're in the rental situation. Is that I try and start anybody that's starting off because I did it wrong when I first started. As far as I'm concerned, I did it wrong. And obviously, there's a million opinions on things. But when you're first starting out, I think you should be buying a triplex, duplex, or depending if you're going to school or if you're going to university or something like that, then I think you should buy a 5-bedroom house and then create a rooming house for students, right? And then you as the kid at school can manage as a responsibility, learning responsibility in life. You can manage that place. But buying a duplex or triplex, there's income coming in that's going to help them afford the building and help offset their, the expenses in that house that they bought, right? So I kind of try and push people towards that. And then after they've lived there for a few years, they can then pull 5%, because you can't buy a duplex or triplex for 5% down. You also have the opportunity of taking an underperforming property, evict the crappier rent, right? The lower rent, and then move in, do some fixes of that unit. And then now that unit will be able to rent for quite high. So then you have the option of maybe even moving to the next unit over or whatever, and then get max rent for the one you're in. And then, you know what I mean? So there's opportunities around what they can do. If you can own or occupy a multifamily right now, obviously, we have families and stuff, and my wife would absolutely murder me if I'm like, we're moving into a duplex. She punched me in the face. But when I was in my 20s, who cares? You're living in one anyways. We'll do it again for, so then I have them repeat that for a couple of years.
Right.
So now they have, 2, 4, 6, however many units.
Right.
I even have them have property managers manage the property while they live in it.
Oh, okay.
So now they're just another renter so that the people next door can't pull on their heartstrings.
Right. That makes sense.
Talk to the property management, because you were working those into the numbers anyways. So those people should be able to afford property management because when you move out of it, you need that property management. So it's just an expense of that property.
Yeah.
Right. So
What
that's
were you saying about the down payment for a multi?
triplexes and duplexes. You can do, I believe, well, duplexes for sure. You can do 5% down.
Right. Okay.
And triplexes, I think it's still 5, but it might be 10%.
Okay.
Down on those. But you can owner occupy duplexes and triplexes. You can't owner occupy fourplexes and above.
Okay.
Right. According to the landlord tenant rules. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So then you can, yeah. That's because you should be at Century 21. I'm just saying.
I know.
Anyways, so
that conversation is for another day.
Yes, it is. So anyways, like with all that, like there's some opportunities for people, first-time home buyers around that, because you see multifamilies all the time sitting on the market for 60 days. And it's because the numbers, they don't work, right? The numbers are garbage and they're losing money. And it's like, well, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So you get a first-time home buyer and you're like, well, that duplex or triplex as the price has gone down and down and down, and they need to lower it 100,000 before anyone's going to buy it. Numbers are so bad, but your person can go in and buy it, evict, move in the crappier unit, renovate that crappier unit, right? Like over time, right? And then make it really nice so they can get max rent on it, and then maybe move to the other one.
So how does that work when they evict one of the tenants? Like, can that be a long process? Like they take possession and then they squat or something? Like they don't actually get
I try and make sure that it doesn't close.
Vacant possession?
Yeah, so I want vacant possession. I want our final walkthrough to be vacant. And if not, just make sure that they're in a position that they know. It could be a month, right? Because they can't move in right away. They need to renovate it.
Yeah, that's right.
So they are going to own or occupy it, but like they need to renovate it, and you can't live in it while it's being renovated.
Right.
So then it's like, all right, well, let's close it a month prior to you moving in, because you need a month to clean the place up and slowly move your stuff over. Right. So then, the day of their tenants are supposed to be out. Well, now it's like, well, you can't give me vacant possession. That's in our contract. Right. And then you just won't close, and you'll push the closing date out until they can get them out. Okay. Right.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because I also don't like the fact that it says to assume the tenant.
I know.
Yeah. So I get rid of that.
That's always a nightmare.
Yeah. So I just get rid of it. I'm not going to assume they can't assume it. The bank won't even finance it if the tenant is there, because they have to own or occupy.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense.
So that means like we're setting our clients up for failure if we put that vacant, because they need financing, and the bank's like, well, you need to own or occupy to get your financing, if that's the case.
Right.
So I can't have it there. And then if the other agent argues it, just like, well, unfortunately, then we can't have a deal because my folks can't get financing if they're there.
Right.
So it won't close anyways. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyways, that's I think a huge opportunity for first-time home buyers that are looking to get into renting.
Yeah.
Is they can use 50% of the income of the property towards their qualification. Okay. And that's one bank. I know Scotiabank's policy is pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's Scotiabank. I think it's 50% of the income. Other banks may use 100%. Other banks may use 75%.
And they can use that as your down payment, you're saying?
Not down payment, qualifying.
Qualifying.
Okay. So the income to qualify your debt service ratio. So the property.
That makes sense. So, okay.
Yeah. So if it's a triplex, now you have 2 rents, and then you're going to evict 1. So you're going to be like, I'm evicting this $500 a month rent. So the people that have lived there for 20 years and haven't had a rent increase.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm going to evict them and move them in. I move myself into that unit. And then, you're going to redo that unit and move into it. And then you're going to live there for a year.
Yep.
Right. And then maybe you move up to a different unit. Maybe you go buy another property.
Right.
But you use the equity that you've created.
Right.
As soon as you're done renovating, you can change that rent from $500 to $1,600, where it should be $1,700, $1,800, whatever it should be. Yeah. Then that value of the property goes way up because of the cost approach.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the numbers
now pull some equity out, just enough for you to go buy another one for 5 or 10% down. Try and buy, as many as the young couple or older couple, who cares if they're able to do this. Then, you get into the properties, you can get into a couple. You built a portfolio using only 5%, 10% down. Because if I go buy a $500,000 property, I have to spend $100,000 to do it. where they can spend 25 grand to do it.
Right.
Right.
We should have had this conversation a few years ago. I'm like, well, we're 9 years
Trying
in,
to.
right? Cheapers.
Right.
I need to start getting real smart with my money.
Yeah. So like that's just like one strategy for the first time home buyers. And then there's so many other strategies around real estate investing. Like there's so many different things.
Oh, I'm sure we could sit here for hours and talk about it.
Yep, 100%. Do you have any other, have you ever heard of what ways you make money in real estate? Do you know that? Like the 4 ways you make money in real estate?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna just for your listeners, and we're all learning here. So when people talk about your return on investment in real estate, right? And that's why real estate is better than stocks, right? That's why real estate is, to me, it's better than stocks, right? Yep. Because with stocks, you take a certain amount of money. Let's say you have $100,000 and you make 10% return on that $100,000 in the stock market. What do you have? $110,000, right? You make 10 grand, right? So with real estate, if I had $100,000, right, I leverage that money, right? Yeah. So now that $100,000 represents as $500,000. So if I make a 10% return in the real estate market, I make 50 grand.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Right. So it's smart leveraging. Okay. Yeah. So when we talk ROI in real estate, there's 4 things that are happening, and then maybe a silent 5. But 4 ways that you're going to make it is, 1, you have cash flow, the amount of money that you make over top of the expenses, right, from your rent. So that's the cash flow you're going to make. You have equity payback, right? Usually you're leveraging that property, right? So you have a mortgage on it. The tenants are paying that down. That portion of principal that's being paid is the equity payback. So you're that's being paid down over time, right? Then you have active appreciation and passive appreciation. Active appreciation is sweat equity. You go in and you renovate and you increase the value of this property from doing whatever renovations to it, right? You've increased the rent or whatever, right? That's active appreciation. So it's like bump the value up. And then passive appreciation is, the market going up and down, right? Sometimes like, in the last 8 months, sometimes it goes down, right? But
that's when I'm getting those phone calls, right? They're like, can we sell right now? And it's like, no, you need to stay where you are. You're not allowed to move yet.
Yeah, not yet. No, not a great situation for them.
Last year, I think I told more people to stay put than I did in sales,
And you know what? That's great, because then you've given them the right advice as far as
for sure.
Right? Like obviously there's people that like have to sell or whatever, and that is what it is. But if you're in a position that's like, hey, you're going to take a loss. Well, how do we get around that loss?
Yeah, exactly.
So those four ways are the different ways that you get your return on investment in real estate. So when people are like, well, stocks or real estate, I'm just like, it's really hard for me to jump out of real estate. Yeah. Right? Because I'm just like, well, yeah, it's gone down right now, but like, look at the curve of real estate. It's a
long-term,
over time. Get rich slow is what it is. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Unless you're trying to flip some property, but right now you don't flip property in a down market.
No,
right? No. That's why I don't know if you noticed, but back when the market started turning, all the flippers were just selling it project unfinished.
Yeah,
because they're like, well, they had to. Right, they had to. They had no choice.
Or they took them off the market.
Right. But then what they should be doing is flipping to themselves, right? They're going to have to refine and then do the Burr technique kind of.
Yeah.
And then try and hold them, right? But if someone's using that as their job, it's hard for them to get the mortgages sometimes because they can't. So maybe they have to use private money or they have to use Zed Bank. But yeah, do you have any questions about real estate?
For
me.
Yeah, reach out to Travis if you've got investment questions for sure. I know I learned some things that I didn't know before. So I do appreciate your time, and we'll have to get you on another time, and maybe you'll talk. Maybe we'll do them in segments, like first time home buyer investment, move up investment, like expand your portfolio, and like maybe the end of like when is it a good time to sell? Like when people are retiring, what's the strategy?
What do you do with your portfolio?
Yeah.
Oh, I have so much around that.
We'll do another episode for that.
Yeah, for sure. That's great.
Cool. Okay. Well,
some value to your listeners and
yeah, absolutely. And this is a brand new podcast. And I don't know if you saw my story, but I was like, hey, I'm having Travis on today. And I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to post it because I'm all new to this podcast thing. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if like I should be doing this live or I should be posting it a week out after. I don't know. So
you could do it live and then post it, right? Like, yeah. Well, I think we do a podcast.
I think we'll definitely add value to anybody who's listening today. Is definitely going to gain value, which is the whole point of this. So appreciate you, Travis, and we'll chat again soon.
Yeah, you bet.